Welcome to the Heartbreak Chronicles, where every story is a raw reflection of life. Hit that subscribe button to stay tuned, give us a like to show your support, and share this episode with your friends. Don't forget to leave a comment and let us know what you think. Now, let's dive into today's story. My name is Dave, and I am an architect. I always thought my wife Emma and I had a happy, fulfilling marriage, until that fateful turning point came. Emma is a well-known food blogger with millions of followers. She often shares a variety of beautiful food photos and cooking tips on social media. We have been married for 15 years and have three lovely children: Sarah, 23, Daniel, 16, and Larry, 13. I always thought we had a great family life, until Emma started acting a little strange. Emma came home that day with a hint of excitement on her face that I had never seen before. She told me that she had received an invitation to attend a food seminar in Italy. "Honey, this is a rare opportunity," she said gleefully. "I get to learn the latest cooking techniques and meet the biggest names in the industry." I instinctively felt a little uneasy, but I nodded, seeing how excited she was. "Sounds good," I said. "What's the time?" "In 2 weeks," Emma replied. "For 2 weeks." I frowned. "So long? What about the kids?" Emma laughed and patted me on the shoulder. "Don't worry, haven't you always said you wanted to spend more time with the kids? Now's a good time to do that. Besides, Sarah can help watch the brothers." I reluctantly agreed. For the next 2 weeks, Emma was busy preparing for her trip. She kept telling me about Italian food, culture, and even learned a few words of Italian. I must admit that seeing her so enthusiastic made me start to feel for her too. However, just the night before Emma leaves, everything changes. That evening, I was working in my study when Emma knocked on the door. "Dave, there's something I want to talk to you about," she said, a hint of unease in her tone. "What is it?" I asked. Emma took a deep breath and then started talking about what she thought of our marriage. She said she loved me, but at the same time craved some new excitement. She suggested something I'd never thought of: an open marriage. I'm stunned. "Are you serious?" I asked, hardly believing my ears. Emma nodded. "I know it sounds crazy, but I think it could be good for both of us. We can explore new possibilities while keeping our love alive." I felt a wave of dizziness. Our marriage has been stable, at least I think so. Now that Emma has suggested this out of the blue, I'm completely overwhelmed. "I need time to think about it," I finally said. Emma nodded, kissed me, and left. I barely slept that night, Emma's words running through my head. When Emma left the next morning, I still hadn't been able to give her a clear answer. She gave me a hug and said, "Don't worry, we'll talk about it later." Then she boarded a plane to Italy. After Emma left, I noticed that the atmosphere in the house became unusually quiet. The kids seemed to sense something as well, but no one said anything. I tried to stay on track, but Emma's offer kept haunting me. A few days later, Sarah came to talk to me. "Daddy, did something happen to Mommy?" she asked, worry in her eyes. I hesitated, unsure of how to respond. Finally, I decided to be honest. "Your mom has come up with some new ideas about our marriage." "I'm still thinking about it." Sarah nodded thoughtfully. "I've been noticing something wrong with my mom lately. She seems to always be looking at her cell phone and snickers a lot." I felt my heart tighten. Is Emma already working on her open marriage plan? Just then, my cell phone rang. It was a text message from an unfamiliar number. "Your wife is having a great time in France." My heart is racing. France? Didn't Emma say she went to Italy? I immediately opened Emma's social media accounts, but found nothing out of the ordinary. Her recent posts have been all about photos and reviews of Italian food, and all seems to be well. But that text message didn't put me at ease. I decided to do some research. I contacted the organizers of that Italian food seminar Emma mentioned to make sure she actually attended. To my shock, the organizers told me that they had not invited Emma to any workshops at all. In fact, they don't even know her. This discovery made me fall like a stone. Not only has Emma lied to me, she may have betrayed me. I don't know how to face this harsh reality. Just then, Sarah walks in. Seeing the look on my face, she immediately realized what was happening. "Daddy," she whispered, "we'll face this together, okay?" I nodded, grateful to have my daughter's support. But I know that the next few days will be an uphill battle. Emma's betrayal not only hurt me, it shook the foundation of our entire family. I have to protect my children and fight for my dignity at the same time. What started as a culinary temptation turned into a family tragedy. But I know I have to be strong for whatever the future holds. Because right now, I'm not just doing it for myself, I'm doing it for our kids. When I found out about Emma's lies, I felt like my whole world was falling apart. My marriage, which I was once so proud of, suddenly became a big lie. But I knew I had to stay calm for the sake of the children. Sarah became my biggest support. As a psychology student, she amazed me with her insight. "Dad," she said, "we need more evidence. Mom may have her own reasons, and we can't jump to conclusions." I nodded, despite the skepticism and anger inside me. Sarah suggested we scrutinize Emma's recent activities, including credit card statements, phone records, and social media activity. "It feels like an invasion of her privacy," I said, conflicted. Sarah looked me in the eye and said, "Dad, if Mom is really lying to us, then she has broken the trust in the first place. We have a right to know the truth." We started an investigation. Emma's credit card statement showed that she did make some purchases in Italy, but the amount was far less than expected. What is even more puzzling is that several large expenditures were made in Paris, France. The phone records also show some anomalies. Emma often calls a number we don't recognize, often for long periods of time. Sarah searched online and found that the number belonged to a food photographer named Oliver. "Oliver?" I mumbled. "Emma never mentioned this guy." Sarah frowned and said, "I've seen his name on Mom's Instagram. He likes and comments on Mom's posts all the time." We continued to dig deeper and found that Emma and Oliver's interactions went far beyond the professional level. The messages they exchanged were full of ambiguity and intimacy, and some of them even explicitly referred to their meeting in Paris. Each new discovery was like a knife, stabbing deep into my heart. I used to think our marriage was perfect, but now I realize it's just a web of carefully woven lies. Sarah saw my pain. "Dad," she whispered, "we need to make a plan. Mom is obviously lying to us, but we can't be reckless." I agreed. We decided not to tell Daniel and Larry for the time being so as not to cause them unnecessary pain. In the meantime, I contacted my good friend John, who is a lawyer. John sighed deeply as he listened to my account. "Dave, I'm sorry this happened to you, but you need to protect yourself and your children. I suggest you take some legal steps." At John's suggestion, I began to take action. First, I froze a portion of the joint account in case Emma moved the funds upon her return. I then began to gather all the evidence that might be useful in a future divorce proceeding. Sarah was with me the whole time, and I was proud of her maturity and wisdom. "Dad," she said to me one night, "I know it's hard, but you have to remember that you didn't do anything wrong. It was Mom who betrayed our trust." I nodded, feeling my throat tighten. "I just don't understand," I said. "Why she's doing this after all the years we've been together?" Sarah pondered for a moment. "People make stupid decisions sometimes, Dad, but it's not your fault. What we need to think about now is how to move forward." The day before Emma was scheduled to return, I got a text from Oliver. "I'm sorry, I didn't realize Emma was married. I don't want to get involved in other people's marriages." This message both confirmed my suspicions and raised new questions. What exactly did Emma say to Oliver? Is she planning to abandon our marriage altogether? I decided to stop waiting passively. I sent a short message to Emma. "I know everything. We need to talk." Emma quickly replied, "I don't know what you're talking about. I'll come back tomorrow and we'll talk in person." This response both annoyed and confused me. Is Emma still trying to hide the truth? Or does she really have no idea what I've discovered? That night, I hardly slept. I couldn't stop thinking about Emma, about our marriage, about the kids. How can I face her? Is there a future for our family? The next morning, Sarah came into my room. "Daddy, are you ready?" she asked, concern in her voice. I took a deep breath and nodded. "It's ready. Whatever happens, we'll face it together." We sat in the living room, waiting for Emma to return. There was tension and unease in the air. Daniel and Larry sense an unusual vibe, but they don't realize what's about to happen. Finally, we heard the key in the lock. The door opens and Emma walks in with post-travel fatigue and a hint of unease on her face. "I'm back," she said, her voice trembling. I stood up and looked her straight in the eye. Welcome home, Emma. We need to talk. Emma's smile froze, and she looked at me, then at Sarah. She seemed to realize that her carefully woven lies were about to be exposed. I knew that the next conversation would determine the future of our family. No matter what the outcome, I have to stay strong because I'm fighting not only for myself, but for our children. Emma stood in the center of the living room, her eyes darting back and forth between Sarah and me. Her expression changed from one of exhaustion to one of alarm, as if she realized the coming storm. Dave, what happened? She tried to act as if nothing had happened, but I could hear the tremor in her voice. I took a deep breath and tried to control my emotions. Emma, how was your food seminar in Italy? She blinked, seemingly relieved. Oh, it was great. I learned a lot of new skills and met a lot of people in the industry. I nodded, then continued. So, can you explain why the seminar organizers say they didn't invite you to attend at all? Emma's face instantly turned pale. She opened her mouth, then closed it again, obviously looking for the right excuse. And, I continued, can you tell me why your credit card statements show you making large purchases in Paris? Or why you're constantly calling a food photographer named Oliver? A flicker of panic flashed in Emma's eyes. She began to stammer an explanation. Dave, you're mistaken. There's a rational explanation for all this. But I'm done listening to her lies. Emma, we both know the truth. You've betrayed me. You've betrayed this family. Emma suddenly broke down, tears rolling down her cheeks. I'm sorry, Dave. I didn't mean to. It just happened. Sarah stood up, her voice calm but full of disappointment. Mom, you're not only lying to Dad, you're lying to all of us. Have you thought about how much this will hurt us? Emma looked at Sarah, seeming to realize for the first time the effect her actions were having on the children. Sarah, baby, Don't call me baby, Sarah interrupted. You lost that, right? The next few hours were filled with tears, accusations, and painful confessions. Emma admits that she developed a hyper-friendship with Oliver, but insists that she never intended to leave the family. I was bored and neglected, she choked out, and Oliver made me feel young and attractive. I felt a deep pang of disappointment and anger. So you decided to ruin our marriage and hurt your children? Emma shook her head, tears streaming down her face. No, I didn't think about it. I'm sorry, Dave, can't we just start over? I promise I'll never. But I've made up my mind. Emma, this isn't just about your infidelity. You planned this whole thing, and you lied to all of us. I don't think I can trust you anymore. Over the next few days, the atmosphere in the house became extremely tense. Emma tries to salvage the situation, but every attempt she makes just deepens the wound. She suggested we see a marriage counselor, but I refused. Emma, the problem isn't that we need to communicate. The problem is that you chose to cheat and betray, I told her. At John's suggestion, I hired a divorce attorney. When Emma receives the divorce papers, she finally seems to realize the gravity of the situation. Dave, please, she cried. Give me a chance. We can get over this together. But I've made up my mind. Emma, you've made your choice. Now it's time to face the consequences. As the divorce proceedings began, Emma became increasingly desperate. She tried to influence me through the kids, but Sarah and Daniel were on my side. Only Larry seems confused and bitter about the whole situation. Emma's attorney presents a seemingly fair property division plan, but John is quick to point out the pitfalls. She wants primary custody, Dave, John warned me, so she can control most of the assets. I decided to fight back. In court, my attorney demonstrated Emma's deceitful behavior, how she misappropriated family funds, and how her irresponsible behavior affected the children. The most dramatic moment was when my lawyer produced the letter Emma had left before she left. The letter, in which Emma tried to persuade me to accept an open marriage, became the key piece of evidence of her deliberate betrayal. Emma sat in the dock, her face pale and her eyes vacant. I could almost see her elaborate, perfect plan crumbling before her eyes. The judge, after hearing all the evidence, ruled in my favor. I was granted primary custody of the children, and Emma was only allowed supervised visitation. Also, Given Emma's betrayal and financial fraud, the judge favored my position on the division of property. When the judge announced the verdict, I felt a sense of relief, but also a touch of sadness. What was once a happy life for us is now just pieces in a courtroom, like scattered crumbs of kosher bread. When I left the courtroom, Emma tried to approach me. "Dave, I'm really sorry. I never thought it would turn out like this." I looked at her once familiar face now unfamiliar. "Emma, I never thought it would come to this either. But you made a choice, and now we both have to face the consequences." Sarah came over and put her arm around my shoulders. "Come on, Dad. Let's go home." As we walked toward the parking lot, I felt a strange sense of relief. Despite the uncertainty of the future, at least the lies are over. We can begin to rebuild our lives, scarred but at least honest. On the way home, I remembered the beautiful French pastries that Emma used to love. Ironically, her lies are like the treats, shiny on the outside, but empty on the inside. But I know that true love and family don't depend on glamour. It requires honesty, trust, and sustained effort. Although our marriage is over, my love for my children will never change. I looked at the side of Sarah's face and my heart filled with pride and gratitude. The maturity and wisdom she has shown through this storm gives me hope. I know that as long as we stand together, we can make it through this difficult time to a brighter future. After the divorce case settled, life slowly began to get back on track. The kids and I have moved into a new home, one that is free of Emma, but full of new memories that we have created together. Sarah continued her studies in psychology, but now she is focusing more on family therapy. I guess the experience gave her a new perspective and motivation. Daniel and Larry are also adjusting to their new lives, and while the process isn't easy, together we support each other. The other night, I got an email from Emma. I hesitated for a long time, but finally clicked on it. "Dear Dave," the email begins, "I know this letter may come too late, but I wanted to write to you anyway. I've been reflecting on my behavior for a while now, and I realize what a terrible mistake I made. Not only did I hurt you, but I hurt our children and destroyed our family. I have no excuses, only deep remorse and apologies." I read on, with mixed feelings. "I lost everything, Dave, my family, my career, even my self-esteem. Now I work every day at a small restaurant, a job that has helped me realize what life is all about. The vanity and excitement I used to seek now seems so ridiculous and empty. I can't help but imagine Emma now. The once glamorous food blogger is now a busy figure in a small restaurant. I don't expect you to forgive me, Dave, for what I've done that I may never be able to undo. But I want you to know that I do regret it. If I could turn back the clock, I'd appreciate what we have instead of foolishly pursuing those illusory thrills." I felt a pang of sadness when I read that. Not for Emma, but for what we had. All those fond memories, now tainted by her betrayal. In closing, I would like to say, please give my best to the children. Tell them that I love them and that I feel incredibly guilty for hurting them. I know I may never regain their trust, but I will always love them. I closed the computer and sighed deeply. Emma's confession comes too late, but at least she finally realizes her mistake. The next day, I told Sarah about the email. She listened and was silent for a while, then said, "Daddy, do you think Mommy really means it?" I thought for a moment, I guess so, but it doesn't change what's already happened. Sarah nodded. "You're right, but maybe this thing will help us all let go." We decided to pass on Emma's apology to Daniel and Larry. They reacted differently. Daniel acted aloof, while Larry cried. We spent a lot of time sitting together, discussing our feelings, comforting each other. A few weeks later, I met Emma by chance at the supermarket. She looked much older, with a look of exhaustion and remorse in her eyes. We exchanged awkward greetings, then she hurriedly bowed her head and hurried away with her shopping cart. Watching her back, I suddenly realized that Emma was probably suffering more than any of us. She not only lost her family, she lost herself. Everything she was once so proud of, her food blog, her fame, her confidence, has gone up in smoke. That night, I made dinner with the kids. We were busy together in the kitchen, laughing. Sarah teased me about my knife skills, Daniel raved about my sauce, and Larry gleefully set the table. Sitting at the dinner table, Looking at the smiling faces of the children, I felt a warmth. In spite of all we've been through, we're still together. We still have each other. Hey, Dad, Daniel said suddenly. Have you ever thought about starting dating again? I almost choked on my food. What? No, I'm fine now. Sarah laughed. Don't be shy, Dad. You're still young. And you cook so well, you're sure to be loved. I shook my head, but felt a warmth in my heart. Maybe someday I'll open up again, but for now, I'm content with the status quo. After dinner, we watched a comedy movie together. I was so happy to see the children laughing and smiling. Yes, we lost something, but we also gained something new. A deeper bond, a stronger will, and a new appreciation for life. Before bedtime, Larry came into my room. Daddy, he whispered, do you think we'll ever see Mommy again? I took him in my arms. If you want to see her, we can arrange it. But remember, no matter what happens, we'll always be together. Larry nodded and gave me a big hug. Lying on my bed, I thought back to everything that had happened in the past few months. Emma's betrayal caused us great pain, but it also made us appreciate each other more. We weathered the storm, but we weathered it together. The next morning, I decided to send Emma a short email back. Emma, I got your email. Although what happened can't be changed, I appreciate your honesty and your apology. I hope you find inner peace. The kids are fine. We're trying to move on. I hope you can make a fresh start too. Dave. After sending the email, I felt a sense of relief. We may not be able to go back to the past, but we can choose how to face the future. That afternoon, I went on a picnic with the kids. Sarah brings in her new psychology theories, Daniel shares his soccer training stories, and Larry shows off his new paintings with gusto. Looking at the scene in front of me, I realized that life is like a complicated dish. It's sweet and bitter, sour and spicy. Emma's betrayal is a bitter spice, but it also makes us appreciate the sweet moments in life even more. Most importantly, we learn to grow in the face of adversity, to forgive, even if it takes time, and to appreciate the moment. Our family may not be complete, but our love is stronger. As the sun set and we packed up our picnic baskets and headed home, I was filled with hope. Life gives us a bitter dessert, but we choose to turn it into nutrients for growth. I know that whatever lies ahead of us, we can face it together. Because the most precious ingredient in all food is always love, and that no amount of betrayal can take away. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have a story to share about your own or someone else's experience, please feel free to contact me. Take care.